back. It's time to get interactive. Grab your phones and tablets and send that message, Facebook, tweet. And Aisha here will read. Aisha, hey, what's up?
Steve, did you hear about the students who were ordered to be reinstated at the Methodist University?
I did. It must be good news for them, right?
Good news, but since 2012, after 3 years, and now, don't you think they need some compensation from the university?
Don't ask me. I'm afraid.
They should be compensated. Okay. All right, so this is GNI on Multi TV, and the Human Rights Court in Accra has declared the withdrawal of nearly 700 students of the Methodist University College, Ghana, as unconstitutional and directed that they are reinstated. Now, the students were sacked in 2012 by the university after they were deemed not to have met the minimum admission requirements. Now, the Christian-based University College maintained that it was complying with the directive of the National Accreditation Board, but the judge ruled that the students had a right to unimpeded education, had already begun their courses of study after paying school fees. Some of the students actually had completed their programs before they were withdrawn from the private university. Now, the National Accreditation Board blamed the private university for making money a priority rather than ensuring the students qualified for admission. But the question remains, is it that the admission to universities has become too rigid, and that's why we find ourselves in situations where students are admitted and later withdrawn? Or is it that the students have become too lazy to study hard to qualify into the universities? How can we avoid such situations in our tertiary institutions? We'll be back shortly. My name is Aisha Ibrahim.
Joy News Interactive is brought to you in association with
Surfline. It's about time.
The show is proudly sponsored by Surfline. Surfline is about time. You can also join in the discussion via our various social media platforms. You can see them on your screens shortly. All right, so we take a short break. When we come back, we'll bring you Joe and I. So is it that admissions into universities has become too rigid, and that is why we find ourselves in situations where students are admitted and later withdrawn? Let's hear from the streets.
Yeah, I would say yes, and at the same time I would say no. Because yes, because now how the process they pass through before they get admission for university is very tough. Because I can say at first how they used to go or they used to enter university was too minimal, but now how they are passing through a lot of problems here and there, going to this administration, doing that, so it makes it tough for the student to enter university. And again, they are not learning to.
Well, I think that the students are not studying well enough, because the Methodist University, for example, is a private institution, but we have the public universities. I mean, the number of students who buy forms for entry is some of them who do not do well that go into the private universities. So if they all attended the same secondary schools, why is it that some perform better than others? So the baseline is that they have not been studying well enough. That is why they go to the private universities with sometimes lower grades. By this, I'm not saying that the private universities are not doing well, but the entry requirement, once they've established that, if you don't get it, then it means you have to go back and prepare well enough and come.
Talking of the requirements of our current university and the trend of grades that they are interested in, I think it's quite normal, it's quite okay. Because looking at the private universities compared to our public universities, I think our private universities are producing most of, the best students when they come out from school and out into work. They are producing most of the best students. So comparing the grades, I believe the grades are okay. But most of our public teachers, I'm talking of when you visit most of our public schools compared to the private schools, you can see that their heart is not into what they are doing. I had an encounter with, one or two teachers. And you can see that when they are on the field, even in the classroom, they are not giving in their best. And all they do is they go in there and then make money. You might not believe this, but that's what's happening. They go, most teachers go there and instead of, devoting their time to teach the students, they go there and they go and trade over there. Our current, tertiary institutions has been clothed with most fanciful things that were not in the system before. Talking of how most of the students dress and how they devote their time to the academic pursuit, I think they are not putting in their best now.
I may say it's high, I can say it's late. The reason why I'm saying this is that it's high for those who doesn't learn, and it's very less for those who learn a lot. Talking of the high grade, I personally think it's normal. Yeah, it's normal for arts, but if you don't learn hard, you can't make it. You can't get to that level that you are talking about because of situations. Sometimes it's happening in situations and things that we normally see around us that influence us. But I can say years at, like, they don't work hard. They don't work hard towards the things that they need to do.
And so we're back on Journey, and we're told that the judge who ordered the university to reinstate the student ruled that the students had a right to unimpeded education, had already begun their courses of study after paying school fees. Now, some of the students had completed their programs before they were withdrawn from the private university. Let's get more on this because lawyer Gary, the lawyer for the students, is online. Good evening, sir, and thanks for joining me.
Good evening, my sister. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. But you have said that the NAB failed, or the NAB lost the case because they had no legal backing. Why do you make such a statement?
That they lost the case because they are no legal backing?
Yes, because for me, I think that you are for the reforms, but your only issue is that it should be legalized.
I'm not sure I've made that statement anyway. I don't know where you heard that statement from anyway.
But it looks like you are
sure.
not against the reforms. Are you against it?
The reforms?
Yes, by the NAB.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. I'm not against any reform. I mean, if for instance, you are an academic, institution, obviously with time there has to be reforms. Even with your content, the program, and everything, it must reflect, current trend. So if there has to be reforms, I can't be against reforms.
Then what was your argument in court then?
I believe you might have been misinformed whatever I transpired in court. Let me just take you through briefly. What has happened, I think, in the latter part of 2012, basically was that the NAB, through the Education Ministry, sought to make certain directives and then to withdraw some students from Pentecost University, African University, and Methodist University. Their reasoning for doing so was that the students attended the school, some of them with E7 and E8, which in their view did not qualify them to be in the university. Again, they also argued that some students have entered the university with certain requirements, which they call DBS, HND, RSA Part 2 and 3, etc., etc., etc. Now, our argument has been very simple. That one, before the school even sought to advertise these entry requirements, they had sought approval from NAB, through what they call the Program Content Information for Accreditation and Reaccreditation. NAB is approved of these entry requirements. The school went ahead, published these requirements, in the tabloids, specifically Daily Graphic, Ghanaian Times, and then other newspapers, seeking for admission for prospective persons who qualify based on these entry requirements. Now, when these students are enrolled based on these same entry requirements, then the NAV now comes and say, look, we are withdrawing you because you don't meet the requirements. Now, the critical question for all of us is that what is the minimum entry requirement? First of all, the school itself has sought accreditation from you for these entry requirements, which you are approved. So how can you say they don't qualify in the first place? Two, when these requirements were published in the newspapers, it did not raise any against the school that, oh, maybe what you are doing is wrong. Students have been admitted. Some of them have even graduated from the university. But do not forget that these requirements are the same requirements probably by the school for the past 10, 12 years. So how can you now say that people who have entered the school do not meet the requirements? You understand? So we are just going to tell the court that, look, these requirements have been in the domain. They have not raised any protests. They have not, done anything to show that they disapprove of the contents of the publication. Only just say that they disapprove of the contents when they still have been enrolled and they pay school fees and they are in the school. You cannot just say it like that. And again, which is more important here, NAB itself is required by their own regulations. That is their own regulation, 1984, LI 1984, 25 and 1 and 2, that they have to publish and gazette the minimum entry requirements into admission to tertiary institutions. But we did themselves have failed to do so. Ever since NAB came into inception, they have never published any entry requirements into this country. They have never done that. So how can you, when you are told to do something by law, you don't do your own work, and then you turn around to come and say that somebody is not doing his work? So the baseline is that NAB itself has faulted in the work that it is doing. So it is not that we are going to go and say that we are against any reform. No.
And so now that the judge has ordered that the student be reinstated, what do you call for compensation for these students because they've stayed home since 2012?
No, that is where I think some people are making the mistake. No students stayed at home since 2012. For people who have followed the case, immediately they were withdrawn. I think there were over 1,000 students when they were withdrawn. Quickly, we went to court with an injunction application to restrain NAB, to restrain the university, to restrain the education ministry, and the attorney general of withdrawing the students, from the school. That application was granted by the court. So since 2012, somewhere July thereabouts, the students have been in school. In fact, the first batch, they graduated. The second batch, they graduated. And this is the third batch who they yet to graduate. So it is not that any student has stayed at home. Nobody has stayed at home. Effectively, what this means was that if the student had lost the case, then obviously they were going to have their certificates withdrawn from them. But no student has stayed at home. All of them were in school while the case was being fought in court. That should be clarified.
Well, many thanks to you, Lawyer Gary. That was Lawyer Gary, lawyer for the students. Many thanks for updating us. We take a short break on JNI. We'll be back shortly. We're back on JNI, and Steve has just joined me. Steve,
hey.
I just asked the lawyer whether the students should be compensated, but unfortunately it didn't work out.
He perhaps didn't think that they should get a compensation.
Yes, of course, that's the explanation
the compensation,
me.
because the court slapped damages on the institutions, 10,000 each.
Exactly, so yeah.
I feel that that's
because how do you admit students and then now come to tell? Didn't you know before you admitted
It's more
them?
compensation than anything.
Exactly.
So, I think that if they go, then it to be twice.
Right.
Right. Anyway, so that's how we wrap.
That's how we wrap up JNI. My name is Aisha Ibrahim.
My name is Stephen Anti. Thanks for staying with us. Enjoy the rest of our
programs. Have a good evening.
Good evening. Bye bye.
Joy News Interactive was brought to you in association with
Surfline. It's about time.